Welcome to another episode of Metal Mastermind. One of the things that Ken and I have recently been talking to you guys about is learning to master what you currently have in your studio before going out and buying more gear and more plugins and all that good stuff. So in this video, and I think you're really gonna love what we have to offer here, we're actually gonna show you how to build your own vocal chain for metal vocals, particularly for some of the more extreme like death metal vocal styles. We're going to show you how to build this out using plugins that you already have in your DAW. And this is going to save you a lot of time and frustration. And of course, it's also going to save you money because you're probably going to find that you really don't have to go out and buy a third-party plugin for vocals. You're probably going to find that the plugins that's in your DAW that you have right now work just perfectly. All right, so we are in the studio now. For this video, I am using PreSonus Studio One Pro. That is my DAW. So the plugins you see in PreSonus Studio One here are going to be different from what you have in your DAW, unless you're using the same DAW I'm using. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention and to let you know that we're not looking for the exact same plugin. What we're looking for is a specific chain of types of plugins. And then of course I'm going to go through the settings with you for each plugin that we have. So first in your chain, and this is important too, especially these first two, how you set this up. Your first plugin in your chain is going to be your compressor. Second to that is going to be your EQ. Now, I could stop the video right there, share my settings, and you could take it from there and get some really good metal vocal sounds out of that. But I also want to talk to you briefly about reverb. So that would be your third plugin in the chain. And then lastly, we'll touch on delay a little bit, though delay is definitely not something that is necessary. It's just kind of to add a little bit more depth sometimes, and maybe you don't want it through the entire vocal line, but just on certain parts. But we'll talk more about that. So let's go through the settings that I have. And again, I just want to reiterate that my settings may not work for you, but it's just a starting point just to give you some things to think about. You know, you will probably have different settings, but we just want to give you a place to start and just show you that you can use the plugins that you already have to get really good metal vocal tone and sound and recording. So here we go. The compressor, my input gain over here, I left that alone. I do have this all the way up in the mix, the compressor. The lows and highs, I don't really touch those. I didn't touch those in this case. I do have my low frequency at 360 Hertz. That just seems to work well for my specific vocals. The high frequency is at 3.20 kilohertz. So again, those settings, you can start there. They may or may not work well for you, but start there and just record a few tracks and see how that works. My compression is all the way up here. Now some of these controls, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what they are. Like the knee over here, I have no clue what that is. I know what my knee is, but I don't know what it is on here. So I should probably go study that. The gain I have at 0. I do have an attack function on here. I don't know if you have that. I have a normal attack, and you see where my release is at 180 milliseconds, and then my saturation is all the way at 0. So now the goal, or the job rather, of your compressor is simply this, is simply to balance your volume out. So if you've got some low parts, your compressor is going to help bring those up a little bit. If you've got some parts that are too loud, it's going to help attenuate those and bring those down a little bit so that everything's level. You can take this, you can take a screenshot of this if you want, and use that. All right, so next let's go to the EQ. Now I'm using what's called a Pro EQ. Again, this is PreSonus Studio One plugins. So you can just look at the wave here, how this is set up. And again, if you guys want to take a screenshot of this, that would be even better. If you're watching this on your phone, just take a screenshot of it. Or if you're watching this on like your laptop or computer, just do a screenshot and enhance this size and just kind of like mimic this in your own studio, in your own DAW, okay? Now, this EQ is a little bit more enhanced, but I'd be willing to bet that whatever DAW you're using, you probably have like a basic EQ, and you probably have something that's a little bit more, quote unquote pro like this one here. If not, that's okay. You may have just like a basic, bass, mids, and highs. That's fine. You can work with it. Sometimes having less controls simplifies things. All right, but I'm not really going to go through all the frequencies here that we have this set because I do have this catered to my own vocals. What I will say in death metal vocals, especially if you have those low growls like I do, I have got my low end dropping off, as you can see in the wave here, and I've got my highs boosted. I naturally have a deeper voice, and especially when I'm singing death metal, that style, I do need to boost my highs a little bit so that my notes are pronounced. And that's the goal of your EQ. You want to make sure that your vocals, your vocal lines are pronounced and that they're clear. Now, I know we're singing death metal, so people are like, well, you can't understand it anyway, but you still want it to sound good. And us people who love those extreme vocals, you've heard bad vocals before and you've heard good ones. So you want to sound like the good ones, and your EQ is really going to be where that's at. So use this as a starting point. Again, I don't know if this will work for you or not, and it's fine, but use it as a starting point and then just make some adjustments as you go back and hear it play back. Let's move on to the reverb. This is where things get a little bit more interesting. Reverb is kind of like putting on makeup. A woman says that putting on makeup, the goal is to be able to put it on but not notice that you have it on. All right, so reverb in this case is kind of the same thing. You want some reverb on there, but you don't want it to sound like that you have reverb on, right? So in that case, you're going to kind of minimize the reverb, and this is just to enhance your vocal a little more, is to help it kind of like, get over that top, if that makes sense, and just make it sound better, just give it overall better quality. The problem if you have too much reverb, you're gonna run into issues of your vocals sounding muddy, and it's just not gonna be good. It's not gonna sit well in the mix. Vocals with reverb is also kind of like playing guitar in your room versus hearing it in the full mix in the studio. The sound is different, kind of like a guitar amp. You want to cut the gain down a little bit, cut the lows down a little, because it's got to sit in the mix, right? So if you were to record death metal vocals with no reverb, you'd probably say like, okay, that doesn't sound cool. But then you put reverb on, you're like, oh wow, this is awesome. Let me do that some more. And it may sound great, but when you put that in the mix with a lot of reverb, trust me, it's not gonna sound as good as you want it. So just play around with the reverb a little bit. Just a little bit goes a long way with the reverb here. Again, you can see my reverb settings on here. You can take a screenshot of that. The important part here I want you to notice about the reverb setting is the mix. Down at the bottom right there where it says global, there's a mix. I've only got it at 11.7%. So again, it's not a lot. I know I was sitting there talking about, minimal reverb, and you're sitting there seeing the medium hall and some of the other levels here. And that just gives the vocals just enough to really fit into the mix well, but also, I don't know, just gives it a more depth, and it just sounds a lot cooler. Now let's move on to the last plugin, and this is not something that you need. It's just like a kind of a cool thing to have. I've got a pretty enhanced delay. This is not the type of delay you need for death metal vocals. I just use this because I like it, but as you can see my levels here are down pretty low. It's just a little bit, and in fact, I don't always use this. So I want you to hear what it sounds like without the delay. Okay, we're gonna play it real quick without the delay. Now let's hear it with the delay. Because I shared that with you in the full mix, you may have not been able to really tell that much, and actually that's what I want to happen. I want that to be the case because it just adds those subtle little enhancements, those subtle differences. So this, like, you can't really tell what it is, but something sounds really cool about it. So that's the point of delay. Now I will say this, you may want to have delay in certain parts of your vocals. Let's say you've got this big scream coming up. you may want to turn the delay on just for that little part so that it kind of carries over after it stops and kind of slaps back a little bit. So those types of things, those types of moments in the song are where delay really can come in handy and just help your vocals shine that much more. So you should be all set. You've got the core plugins that you need right there in your DAW, and I really don't think you're going to have to go out and buy another plugin. I know there's some really good plugins for vocals, I get that, but the problem with third-party plugins is most of them are not catered to death metal or metal vocal styles in general. They're made for like pop and country and maybe some rock, maybe some hard rock or something like that, but they're just not built specifically for metal. So it's almost like you're buying something that's made for the masses and not really catering to your specific style of music. So that being said, you know, Ken and I, we really think that you're going to be better off just using what you have in your DAW as far as plugins go. You've got the compressor, you've got the EQ, the reverb and delay, and again, you've got our settings that we just showed you here. Just start from there and start tweaking as you need to as you start recording your vocals. See what works best for you. But yeah, I really don't think you're going to have to go out and buy a third-party plugin to record your metal vocals. The only other thing, and actually we've got a blog post in the description of this YouTube video that talks more about this, is you do want to have the proper environment and proper gear to record vocals with. Like, you know, I'm singing through the Shure SM7B microphone. This is like the tank of mics for death metal and metal vocals, and I even use it for just regular singing. So we've actually got multiple blog posts that talks about recording gear. We've got another blog post, you know, talking about mics under $500. So we've got all that for you to check out. Those links are in the description of this YouTube video. Also, the most important link, if you do not have this yet, we're giving away a free Ultimate Home Studio Guide. So there's a link in the description of the YouTube video for that. If you don't have that yet, make sure you pick up your copy, and then you're going to be in our email list as well. We'll be able to notify you whenever we go live, which is once a week. We have some really awesome weekly sessions on Metal Mastermind. On that note, no pun intended, make sure you subscribe to our channel, ding that little bell. And guys, thank you so much for watching this video and supporting Metal Mastermind. Ken Candelas and myself, Jason Stallworth, together we have created Metal Mastermind for you to help you become a better metal musician and to make your life a little bit easier along the way as well, which I hope we're doing that for you. So thank you again for watching. Don't forget to check out the links in the description of this video, and we'll see you on the next video. Horns up.